Hello and welcome to the first unit of week 3 using SAP Business Application Studio to develop SAP Fiori apps of the Open SAP course SAP Fiori Overview, Design, Develop and Deploy. My name is Raz Korn, Product Manager for SAP Business Application Studio. Last week we discussed the importance of design for successful organizations, design challenges in the enterprise and how SAP Fiori UX solves these challenges. This week, we will talk about development tools that turn design into reality. An overview of tools and technologies for developing and adapting SAP Fiori apps was provided in Week 1, Unit 4. This unit focuses on SAP Business Application Studio. Most of the unit will be dedicated to SAP Fiori Freestyle Development Demo. I'd like to start with an overview of the product. SAP Business Application Studio is pretty much the next generation of SAP Web IDE. It's a powerful and modern development environment tailored for efficient development of business applications for the intelligent enterprise. Applications such as SAP Fiori, Workflow, Mobile, SAP S/4HANA extensions, just to name a few. It is available on AWS, Azure, Ali Cloud, and SAP Cloud Platform trial environment. The main motivations for developing it was to provide a better development experience to address the needs of application development with desktop-like experience in the cloud. We also wanted to provide consistent experience with leading IDEs, so developers would become immediately productive when using App Studio. It is all achieved through the underlying technology that makes it easy to use extensions from the market. This allowed us, for example, to provide better support for developing with Java and Node.js and to include command line interface in the product. An additional motivation was to provide a development environment that can be made available through various hyperscalers and in various regions, which is well aligned with SAP's multi-cloud strategy. SAP Business Application Studio provides turnkey solution based on what we call dev spaces. Dev spaces are like isolated virtual machines in the cloud that can be instantly spinned up. Each dev space type contains tailored tools and pre-installed runtimes for a target scenario such as SAP Fiori or mobile. This simplifies and saves time in setting up the development environment as nothing needs to be installed or updated, letting the developer focus on the business domain anytime, anywhere. The desktop-like experience in the cloud allows to efficiently develop, test, build, and run the solution. Integration with additional services and solutions on-premise or in the cloud and leveraging SAP technologies is a breeze. Examples can be SAP API Business Hub or SAP solutions for data consumptions or application deployment, SAP technologies such as SAP Wi-Fi or SAP Cloud Application Programming Model, and commonly used technologies such as Node, Java, OData, and Git. And of course, SAP Business Application Studio has many high productivity tools, wizards, templates, optimized code and graphical editors, and more. Let's take a peek under the hood of SAP Business Application Studio. We'll start with the developer. All the developer needs is a machine running a browser and connected to the internet, as the App Studio is browser-based access. In the middle of the diagram, you can see SAP Business Application Studio with available dev spaces of various types. Each dev space contains a file system where the code is stored, and we recommend as best practice to use Git source code repository. The development environment is an IDE based on an open source. The dev space includes all tools required for a specific scenario as pre-packaged extension, and if additional capabilities are required, there is the option to customize the dev space by adding additional extensions. Various data sources can be used on-premise or in the cloud, SAP or non-SAP. You can see here examples of key extensions that are pre-packaged with different dev space types. and you can see that each dev space has its own set of tools. Let's focus for a second on Fiori dev space. You can see that it comes with the language services for SAP UI5, JavaScript, and XML, optimized graphical editor, SAP Fiori templates for various floor plans and runtimes, everything that is needed to perform local testing, like multiple SAP UI5 version testing framework, mock capabilities, and additional tools like builders and deployers and many more. Now, after this introduction to App Studio, I'd like to have you the feeling of a developer using it, so we'll jump right to the demo. And the first thing that we need to do is, of course, to access App Studio. So App Studio is available on the Cloud Foundry environment as a subscription in sub-accounts. So after I logged into the global account, and then I go into my sub-account, go into the subscription pane, and there I'll find my Business Application Studio. I launch App Studio, and the first screen that I meet is the Dev Space Manager that allows me to perform various operations on the dev spaces, and of course to see the list of available dev spaces that were already created. I can create a new dev space from various type, and for each type I can see the prepackaged tools that come with it. In our Fiori Freestyle demo, I'm going to develop an application that presents a list of suppliers. So I'll launch my development environment, which is based on SAP Fiori dev space. There are various tools for me to start developing an SAP Fiori application. In this demo, I'll use the terminal. As a framework, we're using a Yeoman generator. So we have various generators for various types of applications. And I'll choose to create a Fiori project for the Cloud Foundry environment. You can see the various flow plans that are already available, and many more will be available in the future. I'll choose the basic UI5 application. We'll call it the project Open SAP Fiori demo. We'll use the business partners. I'll use many defaults to save time and reduce the complexity. For data service, I could already bind to a data service at this point in the project creation, but I'd like to use a different tool for binding the data service. And we can see that many dependencies are currently being installed as part of the project creation. And I can see that the project was created. I'll focus my workspace on the specific project that we've just created. This gives me a cleaner environment for my work. And we can see that it's a standard SAP Fiori structure, the business partner HTML5 module with the web app inside. I'll open just a few folders that we can see here that under the local service I don't have here the metadata file, so no data source is bound to the HTML5 module, and the manifest.json does not have any data source. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to bind the HTML5 module to a data source, and I'm going to use a commonly used tool with leading IDs such as the App Studio, which is called a command palette, available with the key shortcut F1 or via view find command. And it's like a provides me a very simple wizard for consuming a service. I'm going to consume an SAP service that will be bound to the business partner's HTML5 modules. I'm not going to use the sandbox environment of API Business Hub. I'm going to use a real backend. based on ES5, which is a public gateway made available by SAP. Anyone can register and get a user for it. And now I can filter the service that I'd like to use. I'd like to use the GW sample basic. It contains the business partners entity set. And as soon as the successful bind is made, I can see here a notification. Also, I can see that the metadata was fetched and the data source was added to the manifest JSON. So a lot of work was saved through using the App Studio as the tool for Fiori development. The next thing that I'd like to do is, of course, to add the list to my application and provide the properties that I'd like to present when the application is run. So I'm launching the optimized graphical editor, and I'm going to add a list component from a UI5 component to my application, bind it to the business partners entity set, and since now it is bound to the business partner entity set, I can use properties from this entity set from the business partner. So I'm going to add the name and ID to my list that will be presented. You can see it's a very user-friendly UI, very simple. Click, drag and drop, and I can have an application very fast. So I basically completed my development, and now I want to test it, and I want to do it very fast. I want to do very fast dev test cycles. I don't want to redeploy it because it takes a lot of time. So I'm going to create a run configuration, and App Studio enables me to run the application within my dev space. So it's a really local run of the application, a very fast turnaround. I'm going to create a new run configuration. I can create multiple run configurations for each application to run it in several different ways. And we are going to run it in a very simple way. So it's a run configuration for my HTML5 module. We can test it with mock, or we can run test frameworks, but we're going to do a basic one running against a real backend. I can test it with various SAP UI5 versions that are installed locally within my dev space, but I'm going to use the latest version. The last thing that I need to do in order to complete the run configuration is to bind to the dependency that I have, which is the destination service. And the destination services will be fetched from the Cloud Foundry space that I'm currently logged into. And we can see here at my status bar at the bottom, I can see that I'm currently logged into my organization and space. So I'm going to fetch the list of destination services that I can use in my application. I'm going to use the trial destination service, and as soon as it is bound successfully, I will also have a visual indication here. It turned from gray to green, and I also have here the notification that it was successful, and I can run my application. So I'm moving to the debug pane, and also I get a visual indication that the status bar changed from blue to orange. And I'm opening the application, and it will present me data coming from the backend that I'm connected to, which is ES5. Okay, going back to the presentation. I'm sure that many of you are aware of SAP Web IDE, perhaps even using it on a daily basis. So I'd like to provide a high-level comparison between the products. First thing is, of course, that Web IDE is available from the Neo environment, while the App Studio is available from the Cloud Foundry environment, letting us to have it available as a product from different hyperscalers and in different regions. From development target, both of them support the Cloud Foundry environment and on-premise ABAP. SAP Web IDE also supports the new environment, which is not planned for App Studio, and App Studio supports deployment to the SAP Cloud Platform ABAP environment. From a solution perspective, SAP Web IDE supports generic workspaces where the developer needs to customize to the specific development scenario, while the App Studio, the core capability is to create dev spaces that are tailored for efficient development of a target scenario. From an experience perspective, Web IDE provides a proprietary experience limited to browser-based experience, and with App Studio we get an experience that is similar to market-leading IDEs. The desktop-like experience allows us to run the developed applications locally, and this saves a lot of time in the dev test cycle, as there's no need to redeploy the application to test it. From a persona perspective, Web IDE provides basically similar, very good experience, but it is similar to all personas. With App Studio, we started with targeting the pro coder persona, but the dev spaces allows us to, the concept allows us to provide suited dev spaces for additional personas. Another important aspect of development environments is the ability to extend it. And SAP Web IDE uses a proprietary extension framework with limited number of extensions. With SAP Business Application Studio, has a VS Code compliant extensibility framework with thousands of available extensions. You can find here links to additional information on the product, and I'd like you to pay special attention to the homepage at www.sap.com/appstudio, where you can find the latest information. So you are kindly advised to visit the homepage from time to time and get updated. One last item before wrapping up is that App Studio is like any cloud-based product. We frequently introduce new capabilities to the product. And therefore, when you try to get your hands dirty with Business Application Studio, it might look a bit different than what you just saw in the demo. So in this unit, we covered the topic of SAP Business Application Studio, a development environment from SAP for efficient development of business applications for the intelligent enterprise. It is available on AWS, Azure Ali Cloud, and you can also try it out on SAP Cloud Platform trial environment. Thank you for watching this unit. In the next unit, we will cover the topic of SAP UI5, UI technology for building modern enterprise-grade Fiori web applications. Goodbye.